Welcome to this edition of the $1 Million Mastermind Podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel.
Okay, well, just between me and you, this is not the interview portion, but this is just me and you over coffee. I would say to you, and you'll probably say, no, that's stupid. But I would say to you, that might have worked out incredibly, rather than I did this wrong, incredibly to your advantage that you went in all these different advantages because you proved to yourself what's valid and not valid. And I'll tell you this, those thoughts of pursuing those other things were unexplored, they could have showed up when you were 10 times bigger and created 10 times the distraction. So that's why it's good to do a lot of this stuff early on. Is like, no, I ain't falling for that again. Would you agree with a little bit of that?
To it, again, like there's no judgment about it. It just, how I think about it though is, I think, what I do, maybe this is a better way to say it. You don't have to necessarily know the business that you're like the perfectly figured out, but I do feel like the importance of a core set of values and a mission of like, what's the impact you want to have? I want to do this. That is a piece that, again, it probably took me too long to develop, but I agree 100%. I got to tinker around a little bit. And I think too, like I also just didn't judge myself. Sure, there's times where we're like, God, I wish my business was bigger. And, oh, look at this person over here. And they've done this. And, then again, like I love what you said. Then it comes down to profit. How much money are you making? And can you reinvest that versus, especially coming from this kind of technology world. So, people put raising money as a badge of honor. You raised 40 million in venture and you're, burning 200,000 a month. It's like, I'm sorry, that's not a badge of honor. It's like, good for you. But, you also have to learn how to make a profit. And that's something that I think is probably the hardest part about, business today, but it's going to be the most crucial for any of these technology companies in particular.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I'm going to rub that in my editor's nose, their face in it when they come to edit this, because, when they come up with proposed new guests for me to check out for the podcast, I'm a monster because, I want solid accomplishments, because if you don't have solid accomplishments, you don't,
what are you going to talk about?
You probably don't have the information that is going to come out and really, people can spot a phony. And so when I see taglines in their credentials, supposedly their credentials, the top bullet points about why we need to have this person on the podcast, is like, they raised, $420 million in capital for this thing. I said, I don't care what they raised. What did they do with it?
That's right. Are you a banker or are you an operator? And those are two different. Trust me, but just so you all know, it is always better to be the bank eventually. All right, just to be very clear. But
eventually.
That's it. And I think comparison for a lot of people, to just pull on that thread, is I think what stops a lot of entrepreneurs from achieving what they could achieve, and business owners, is that thought of like, man, I should be farther along. We should be doing this. And, that mindset can be really dangerous, because it starts to, wears on you, and you're like, oh, should I do something different? And to your point, it's like, sometimes the market's just got to catch up. And here we are 10 years later, and I think I'm seeing the tailwinds, and like, cool, like we're ready. I can't there's times when you can create a market, and, in certain product lines, but for a lot of it, you've got to kind of wait and, really love what you do and be passionate about it so you can weather the storm, and not build. The other thing I'll tell you is, and to not build a lifestyle that makes you dependent on having to make 300,000 or four, because I see a lot of sales leaders that come to me, they've been in house and they're making 400, 500,000 a year. I mean, and by the way, they've made that money 1 year, and so now that's what they're worth. They're usually they're really worth 250, but they made 400 1 year.
Right.
And they don't want to keep doing it. but they've added the second house. Their kids have to go to private school, and they've created a life that shackles them. And I've been very purposeful. I've been lucky. My wife, has a fantastic role as well too. I've never overextended. I've always lived to build the business value, not the cash in my bank account and a $250,000 boat. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong. I did buy a new BMW this year, but that's about it, man. We got, I think when you're building and scaling a business, I want to dump all that money back into the business, not saying you shouldn't go and enjoy it. My wife and I, we do a lot of vacations, but you have to, I'm focused on building business value. It's the exit in 4 years or whatever that is where I'm going to get paid, not now. And every time I take that $250,000 out, that's 2 experts I could have hired, or 3 that now my business can't grow because of it. And would I rather have a boat now or something bigger later? And that's my mindset in scaling this company. That, look, I'm 43 years old. I got a lot of time. I got a lot of working time left, right? And so I'm taking the long-term approach. I think too many people, again, they see that one business person who flipped, who got into commercial real estate or did whatever, and they, all of a sudden, they've got this big mansion. They're like, shit, man, I'm going to go back full time. I know I could go make my $350,000, and they never realized that, where they could have been. Yeah.
Where, let me shift gears. Where are you living now? Where are you now?
I'm in Austin. So we moved down here. I started the company in New York. We lived in Brooklyn at the time. Our office was in Soho. It was sweet. Working in Soho in New York is like the best place on the planet to work. But as the business grew, I can tell you, what's not fun is New York city tax and state tax. And so as we had our second child, our daughter, my wife and I just kind of thought about what we might want to do. So in 2018, we're like, well, let's go check out Austin. And so we moved down here and haven't looked back since. We were ahead of the COVID rush.
Where in Austin are you?
We're in Westlake area. So West side, Lost Creek. So it's great. Great family. Excellent. It's a great place to raise kids. Still tons of stuff going on. So it kind of, it's not like New York going on, but there's enough, right? Now that I'm 43.
How do you keep yourself, I'm going to get back on the business in a minute, but how do you stay energized and inspired? Because the trajectory of success in running a growing organization, if you don't pay attention to staying, what will refresh you? But sometimes it's more work or another company or something, but sometimes it's hobbies, it's travel, it's this and the other. But the more, I think you need to know your limitations, but you need to know also what refreshes you and what keeps you coming back for more. And what would you say that would be for you?
Again, everyone needs, they call them an integrator personality. I'm definitely some like weird mix of a visionary and integrator, which these 2 personality types it kind of takes to run a company. And I'm always thinking about what's next. And sometimes it drives my team insane. And I've gotten a lot better. I've gotten a lot better now about like doing my little skunk work projects over here and not involving them until I like build it out. And then I'm like, okay, guys, I've built this thing out. You're welcome. And go do that. So again, like, there's so much cool things happening in technology. Like right now, again, and everyone who knows me, if you're listening to this, you're gonna be like, oh God, here he goes. He's gonna start talking about ChatGPT. But we're building out a suite of products around generative AI and ChatGPT, and what these tools are capable of is the exact same as whenever we first went online. Like this is a quantum leap forward in terms of workplace productivity, quality of work productivity. And so I think for me, I am trying to think, where's the market going to be? Where's it going to be? And right now that thing is ChatGPT. And so we've built really quickly in about 3 months, we built out, a series of like prompt libraries and workshops for revenue organizations and CEOs on how to utilize ChatGPT and tools like it in their revenue organization quickly. So we've jumped on that, and now we're building some tools that can help them, leverage the platform and bring their playbooks and things into it to make it easier for their team to execute. So I think it's always trying to think about what's ahead and then carving out time to learn. if I see a trend, I'll go to my team. I go, guys, and this happens maybe once a year or ish. I'll say, guys, I got to fire myself next week. I need to go deep on this. And so I did that, probably 6 months ago with ChatGPT. And, here we are 6 months later, we've got a business unit that's literally, we're getting, making almost like $1,000 every couple of days just in like our self-service stuff, not alone the consulting work. And so that's what I do, man. I just come up with stuff. And now I'm good enough about not distracting my team, at least, so where they can focus on what's actually driving money today and not like, here's another idea from Jake. Because sometimes your team, they're not gonna see the vision. It's not their job, or hypothetically for certain roles to think about all the time what's going to be next ahead. That's my role as a leader. So,
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm curious to hear what you would say about this. I get into the same problem with my staff, at least one or two people on my staff, because there's only one or two that are capable of thinking that way. But it is thinking in a creative mode. What if we do this? What if we, and you're starting to spin. Now, if they're an administrative type person where everything is in a column and their whole day they spent getting things in the column and this, that, and the other, and then you come in and say, what if we do this, and you're describing, and they're like, it's kind of like,
they go into a tizzy. They're like, and it's like, no, do not drop everything. I'm not saying this is what we're doing. I trust, yes, right. I can relate to what you're going.
And one thing that I'll hear is, no, we can't afford it. It's like, wait a minute, we're just talking about maybe, possibility,
If my team's listening to this, they're laughing.
Snap, like, no, we're not, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm just talking about, and, but it's kind of like the difference between a back office service administrative person in a company and the sales force. Two different kind of mindsets,
different. And you need both. Like, I mean, again, that's probably, even with my business, like I've got a number two, Brianna, and she just enjoys that stuff, and she'll say, she's like, she's got a POV. She definitely has an idea, strategy, etc. But she loves, building everything out in Asana and making it work and then trying to find ways to automate it. And she's got like a number two that works with her to do it. And, you cannot find those people early enough. That's another thing. I look back and like, I should have hired a person like this sooner. But yeah, there's just people that appreciate that. And what I'll tell you, there's a really great book I read recently. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Who Not How. I
don't think so.
It's Dan Sullivan. There's two people, but it really has changed my perspective on hiring too. And it's leveled up the organization, from doing it, he just talks about. A lot of times you hire people for a job. You're like, hey, this job needs to get done. And he uses this thing called an impact filter, which is like, what's the outcome this job should be achieving? And then the other big point is, I think, again, because of that always growing mindset, the dark side of that coin is sometimes you hire for potential too often. And there are times in your company's maturation where that's not bad. But at the stage that we're at now, and kind of who not how is like, every job that you hire someone who's better than you at that one thing.
Right.
Instead of just saying, I can hire someone who's good, they've done the job before. No, do not sacrifice. Hire people that are better than you. And that mindset for me, I think, has been really important. And we've got 3, kind of mid-level roles open now. And, our team's all aligned. Like, this person's got to been there, done it, and better than somebody else on this team at it, or they're not getting hired. And I think that's an important mindset.
Thanks for listening to the $1 Million Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at whitealumwinning.com. Thanks for listening.